I leaned back in the leather chair that still smelled faintly of newness, the kind of scent that clings to success. Outside my office window, the Manhattan skyline glittered like a promise I once thought was too far out of reach. The late morning sun caught the gold trim of my logo, etched across the glass wall behind me, and for a moment, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. That logo. The one they once called a joke. The one they mocked when I said I wanted to start a tiny business. I smoothed the silk sleeve of my blouse, fingertips brushing the pearl cufflinks I'd bought after my first $1 million quarter. My phone buzzed against the mahogany desk. A name flashed on the screen, a name I hadn't seen in years. Carter and Wells Consulting. I blinked. My chest tightened with a mix of disbelief and amusement. Carter, the same man who laughed loudest at my idea, who once told me over family dinner that women like me should stick to safe jobs. Now his company was reaching out to me. I picked up the phone, holding it lightly, savoring the power shift pulsing through the moment. My assistant's voice came through, calm and efficient. Jessica, they've requested a partnership meeting. Should I confirm? I let the question hang in the air, long enough to feel the weight of the past pressing against the present. The memory of their laughter echoed faintly in my ears, but it no longer stung. Instead, it fueled a quiet fire. Yes, I said finally, lips curving. Let's confirm. Because soon they'd see whose logo was printed on their paycheck. I was 23 the first time I said it out loud. We were sitting around my parents' dining table in suburban Ohio, the same polished oak table where I'd done my high school homework and listened to endless debates about real jobs. I'm starting my own business, I announced, trying to sound steadier than I felt. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the eruption. My cousin Carter smirked, nearly choking on his soda. A business? What kind of business? Selling trinkets on Etsy. My father's fork clinked against his plate. Jessica, you just graduated. You should be applying to firms, not playing around with hobbies. It's not a hobby, I said, though my voice trembled. My palms felt slick, pressed against the edge of my chair. It's design. Branding. I want to help small companies look big. Give them identity. The room filled with chuckles and dismissive glances. My uncle shook his head like I'd announced I wanted to join the circus. You're dreaming too small, Carter said, leaning back with his trademark arrogance. And too big at the same time. Nobody's paying serious money for a tiny business like that. The words stung sharper than I let on. My throat tightened, and I swallowed hard, staring at the grooves in the wood table so no one would see my eyes burning. Then a soft hand covered mine under the table. My grandmother, Evelyn. She leaned close, whispering only for me. Every oak tree was once an acorn. Don't let them laugh you out of planting yours. That night, I sat on my bed clutching the silver locket she'd given me on my graduation day. Inside was a tiny pressed daisy, fragile, but lasting. I turned it over in my hand, over and over, letting her words sink into me. I knew then that I had two choices: let their laughter define me, or let it drive me. The next morning, while the rest of the house slept, I opened my laptop at the kitchen counter and filed the paperwork for my LLC. My hands shook as I typed Aurora Branding Solutions, LLC. It felt small, almost silly, but it was mine. I pressed submit with a racing heart. It wasn't just paperwork. It was a promise to myself, to my grandmother, to the girl who sat at that table and swallowed her tears. If they thought my dream was laughable, fine. One day, I vowed, they'd see what laughter costs. The first months were brutal. Aurora Branding Solutions wasn't born in a glossy office with sleek furniture. No, it started at a wobbly IKEA desk crammed into the corner of my one-bedroom apartment in Columbus. My laptop overheated almost daily. Stacks of sketch pads leaned precariously against the wall, and my inventory was a single shoebox of mock-up logos I had printed at the cheapest copy shop I could find. I still remember my first order. A bakery owner named Linda reached out through a Facebook ad I had posted for free. She wanted a logo that felt warm and homemade, but still professional. I charged her $75, terrified she'd think it was too much. When she emailed me back saying, "This is better than I ever dreamed. Thank you," I sat on the floor and cried, not because of the money, but because someone believed in me. Still, belief alone didn't pay the bills. By day, I worked a receptionist job at a downtown firm. Polite smiles, transferring calls, brewing endless pots of coffee. By night, I turned into a one-woman agency, sketching, designing, teaching myself Adobe Illustrator through YouTube tutorials. My eyes burned from staring at the screen, my hands cramped from sketching late into the night. Doubt was my constant shadow. Every time my designs got rejected or a client ghosted me, I could almost hear Carter's mocking voice in my head. Nobody's paying serious money for a tiny business like that. But there were also sparks of hope. My mentor came unexpectedly. Mrs. Parker, the firm's senior partner and one of the few women in leadership, noticed the designs I doodled on sticky notes at my desk. Instead of dismissing me, she asked, "Who made these?" When I confessed, cheeks burning, she smiled. "You've got an eye, Jessica. Don't waste it." She became my quiet supporter. Sometimes she'd slip small projects my way, unofficially, designing a flyer for a charity gala, rebranding a community initiative. She paid me out of her own pocket at first, insisting, "Good work deserves to be valued." With her encouragement, I upgraded from that overheated laptop to a refurbished MacBook. Then, after landing my first $5,000 client, a local boutique chain, I leased a tiny co-working space downtown. It had peeling paint and a single window that barely opened, but when I stuck my printed logo on the door, my chest swelled with pride. Online orders started trickling in, then pouring. I created entire brand kits, product packaging, and digital campaigns for small companies desperate to stand out. Many were women-owned businesses, and I felt an almost sacred duty to help them shine. But still, I kept it all hidden. At family gatherings, I never brought it up. I'd say, "Oh, work's fine," when asked. On social media, I posted only vague updates, a latte photo here, a quote about ambition there. I wasn't ready to let them know. Not yet. Because inside, I wanted more than success. I wanted proof. I wanted the day when I wouldn't have to defend my dream with trembling hands at a dinner table. The day when the numbers in my bank account, the office I sat in, the employees on payroll, would speak louder than their laughter ever had. And quietly, brick by brick, Aurora Branding Solutions grew. By the time I turned 27, I wasn't just designing logos. I was running a company that other companies depended on. And still, not a single one of them knew. Not yet. The conference room smelled faintly of polished wood and fresh coffee. My assistant, Emily, had laid out the glossy folders, each embossed with our silver and gold logo. The Aurora logo. I adjusted the framed art on the wall, abstract pieces I'd collected during trips abroad. To anyone else, it was just modern decor, but to me, each canvas told a chapter of my journey. Across from the art stood the company motto, painted in sweeping letters, "Identity is power." The glass doors swung open. Carter walked in first, tall and self-assured, wearing the same smug expression I remembered from that night at my parents' table. Behind him trailed three others from Carter and Wells Consulting, his partner, a junior associate, and, to my surprise, my father. "Jessica?" My father's eyes widened. "You're here?" I smiled politely, motioning toward the seats across from me. "Yes. This is my office. Welcome." They looked around, their faces flickering from curiosity to something sharper. Carter gave a low chuckle as if trying to brush off his unease. "I'll admit," he said, flipping open one of the folders, "we were surprised when we saw the client list. Aurora Branding Solutions is impressive. I didn't realize you were." "The founder?" I cut in gently, folding my hands on the table. "Yes. I started it 5 years ago." Silence stretched. My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, eyes tracing the sleek furniture, the glass wall, the employees visible outside, busy, professional, purposeful. Carter cleared his throat. "Well, times change. We're interested in a partnership." You see, some of our bigger clients are demanding a fresh, modern branding approach. We thought that you'd come to me. I finished for him. I rose from my chair and walked slowly to the window. The skyline stretched beyond the glass, a sea of ambition I had once only dreamed of touching. I turned back, catching their stares. "Do you remember," I said softly, "when I told you I wanted to start my own business?" Carter's smirk faltered. My father looked down at his hands. "You laughed," I continued. "You called it tiny, a hobby, something that would never last. And yet," I gestured to the folder in Carter's hands, to the logo printed in bold silver. "That same tiny business is now the company you're asking for help." The weight of the words sank in. The junior associate's pen slipped from her fingers, clattering against the table. "My employees," I added, letting the pride rise in my voice, "cash checks signed with my logo. And if this partnership goes forward, so will yours." For a moment, no one spoke. The silence wasn't like the one at that family dinner years ago, mocking, suffocating. This silence was thick with shock, with realization. My father finally looked up, his voice hoarse. "Jessica, I didn't know." "No," I said, my tone firm but not cruel. "You didn't want to know." Carter leaned back, jaw tight. His arrogance had cracked. The man who once laughed at me now sat across from me, needing me. I walked back to my chair, smoothing my blouse sleeve as I Saturday. Partnerships aren't built on pity or desperation. They're built on respect. If Aurora moves forward with Carter and Wells, it will be because your team can prove it's worth the investment, not because of family ties. Their eyes followed me, stunned into stillness. I let a small smile curve my lips. "Funny, isn't it? The logo you mocked is now the one that could appear on your paycheck." The words hung in the air, final and sharp. Carter's partner shifted uncomfortably. My father exhaled shakily. Even Carter couldn't find a quick retort this time. The power had shifted. And they knew it. The silence in the room didn't break right away. It lingered, heavy and uncomfortable, like everyone was waiting for me to soften, to laugh it off, to say it was all just some misunderstanding. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned forward, folding my hands on the table. If Aurora is to work with Carter and Wells, there will be conditions. Carter raised an eyebrow, his old arrogance twitching like a muscle memory. "Conditions?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Because this isn't just about money. It's about values, respect, growth." I turned to my father first. His shoulders hunched as if bracing himself. "Dad, when I first told you about this company, you dismissed it. You dismissed me. If we're going to move forward, I need you to stop underestimating what I'm capable of. Not just here, but in every conversation. With me, with Mom, with anyone. Respect starts at home." He nodded slowly, eyes misting, lips pressing into a thin line. Next, I shifted my gaze to Carter. He sat stiffly, jaw tight. "And you? You mocked me, called my dream a joke. You built a career on belittling others who didn't fit your mold. If you want Aurora's name attached to your firm, you'll treat every partner, big or small, with respect. No sneering, no condescension. You'll listen, even when the ideas come from people you once thought were beneath you." His face reddened. For once, he didn't argue. I softened my tone, though not my resolve. "These conditions aren't punishments. They're opportunities. You laughed when I was planting seeds, but I've learned that what you water grows. If you want to work with me, you'll need to start watering the right things." The junior associate, a young woman with wide, anxious eyes, finally spoke. "And if we agree?" "Then," I said, leaning back, "we build something incredible together. Aurora doesn't just create logos. We create identity. We amplify voices. We give companies the power to be seen for what they truly are. That's what you're buying into, not just my designs, but the vision that built this." I paused, letting the words sink in. "But if you can't honor those terms, then you walk away. And trust me." I gestured lightly toward the view outside, the skyline brimming with opportunity. "Aurora won't suffer for it." The weight of choice shifted onto them. For the first time, they were the ones scrambling to prove themselves to me. My father cleared his throat, his voice thick. I can do that, Jessica. I can change. I should have seen sooner. Carter looked down at the Aurora logo on the folder, tracing it absently with his thumb. You've built something real, he muttered. The fight in his tone had drained. I'll work on it. I nodded once, satisfied, but not indulgent. Good. Because this isn't about me anymore. It's about the kind of people we all decide to be moving forward. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking them to believe in me. I was telling them the terms. And they were listening. The meeting ended with stiff handshakes and unsteady promises. As they filed out, their expressions a mixture of awe and humility, I stayed seated, watching the sunlight creep higher across my desk. For years, I had replayed their laughter in my mind, like a scar that wouldn't fade. And now, sitting in the office I had built from the ground up, I realized something. The sting was gone. It had transformed. Over the weeks that followed, change began to show. My father called me more often, not to lecture, but to listen. Sometimes he'd ask about Aurora's projects, sometimes just to say he was proud. It was awkward at first, but I could tell he meant it. Carter struggled. Old habits don't break overnight. But when his firm's junior associate emailed me directly to thank me for insisting on respect across the board, I knew the message was sinking in. Slowly but surely. And me? I kept moving forward. Aurora expanded into new states, took on bigger clients, and launched initiatives to support women-owned startups. Women who reminded me of the girl I once was, sitting at that oak table, hands trembling, voice breaking under the weight of doubt. One afternoon, I found myself reaching for the locket tucked away in my desk drawer. The silver was worn, the pressed daisy inside still perfectly preserved. My grandmother Evelyn had been gone for 2 years now, but her words rang louder than ever. Every oak tree was once an acorn. I held the locket against my palm, a lump rising in my throat. She had believed in me when no one else did. And now, I carried her belief in every decision I made, in every logo Aurora sent out into the world. I glanced up at the wall where our motto stretched in bold letters, "Identity is power." And I thought about the identity I had forged, not the one they handed me, not the one they mocked, but the one I built with my own 2 hands. The irony of it all made me smile. They once mocked my tiny business. And now my logo, the one they dismissed, laughed at, rolled their eyes at, was stamped on the very paychecks they collected. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes for a moment, and let the truth settle over me like sunlight. I hadn't just proven them wrong. I had proven myself right. And that, I realized, was the sweetest victory of all.